Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcus Daniels. I'm a commercial real estate broker in the Washington, D.C. area, and very excited to meet with you all this morning to talk about commercial real estate, talk about business development, strategic planning for the upcoming year. For most of the folks who registered for this session are currently residential real estate agents or commercial real estate agents from around the country. And I'm really excited to be able to offer this as we head into the new year. For most real estate agents, 2023 was a interesting year as we dealt with rising interest rates, changing economic environment, both locally and nationally, and the inventory, both in residential and commercial real estate, coming down on the listing side, and then also a decrease in sales across the board in the industry. So with interest rates coming down and there being more optimism with the economy, a lot of folks that I've talked to are optimistic about what 2024 has in store for all of us. And so I've hosted classes and seminars in the past, but I thought this specific one would be helpful for real estate agents to start to think about, how to best position yourself for success in the new year. So what I would like to do is just take first few minutes just to give a few quick housekeeping notes. I sent an email or a message to everyone with this Zoom link information, but I also included information for my mentorship and coaching program for real estate agents that are looking to have more one-on-one assistance, getting guidance and mentorship in commercial real estate brokerage. And I also included a link to a free ebook that is a commercial real estate 101 guide for those who are looking to expand their knowledge of commercial real estate. So if you didn't receive that, just feel free to let me know and I'm happy to send that to you. For this session, do not have to keep your camera on. You do not have to come off of mute. If you have a question, just drop it in the chat and I will take some time throughout the session to answer any questions. And then finally, after this session, I'll send out a link to my Calendly for folks to schedule one-on-one calls for any specific questions that you may have or to talk specifically about your business and what your goals and objectives are for the year. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started and dive into the session. First, we're going to talk about just the current state of the commercial real estate market, and then I'll dive into an overview of commercial real estate as a whole, and then we'll start to dive into marketing and business development techniques. And then the second half of our session, we'll go through a business planning exercise together. So we'll talk briefly about commercial real estate brokerage. We'll talk about various commercial property types, building a strong foundation for your business, and then marketing and prospecting strategies. I've been a commercial real estate broker at NAI Michael, which is based in the Washington, D.C. area for the past 8 years. I've had the pleasure of selling over $150 million worth of commercial real estate, primarily office buildings, shopping centers, industrial warehouses, multifamily apartments, mixed-use developments, land, churches, schools, medical office buildings, pretty much all various types of commercial real estate. When I first started in the business, I did not have my real estate license prior to getting into commercial real estate brokerage. I was working in healthcare and banking prior to coming into the real estate industry, and I really didn't have a good handle on how to prospect, how to get leads for buyers and sellers and tenants and landlords, and just really how to prepare myself to be successful in the business. And so this seminar and other courses that I've done in the past have helped real estate agents develop a strong foundation for their business and just of the knowledge base of how to be effective. And so we'll talk about that this morning. And so commercial real estate as a whole has been a topic of conversation since the COVID pandemic has come, and is now we're at this point where folks are getting back somewhat to normal in terms of living their day-to-day lives, gathering in large groups, going on vacations. But unfortunately, in certain parts of the commercial real estate market, things have not gotten back to normal. So for most folks that work are either working on a hybrid schedule, working fully remotely, or working full time in person. And that's something that has had an impact on not only the office market, but the retail market as well. In my opinion, I think the office market is going to continue to have some pain because most folks, I think, have gotten used to working virtually, and most businesses, in order to keep talent, have offered more flexibility related to folks working from home. So that has reduced the need for office space in most markets across the country, and has affected the retail market as well, because those restaurants and shops in your central business districts in downtown have not been able to survive. So whether you're in Washington, D.C., New York City, LA, Atlanta, it's the same across the board. So we'll talk about a little bit more about that, and also talk about emerging property types in commercial real estate brokers, such as industrial, medical, and land as well for mixed use development and multifamily development. And so we'll talk about the key roles and responsibilities of commercial real estate brokers, and differentiating the difference between sales and leasing. So in commercial real estate, we have buyers and sellers, we have landlords and tenants. And leasing and tenant relationships are a very important aspect of commercial real estate. For most commercial real estate agents and brokers, there is a constant focus on finding new landlords and new tenants to represent, that are looking to either lease their buildings, or tenants that are looking to lease space within the building. So that relationship involves negotiations between landlords and tenants for rental spaces, and lease terms that are typically like critical for that potential deal include the rent amount, how long is the lease term, tenant improvements, as well as lease structures that impact both parties' financial obligations in the relationships. So the landlords and tenants and brokers couldn't do what they do without great property management. So the property management firms in commercial real estate really are playing an important role of overseeing the day-to-day operations, maintenance, and tenant relationships for commercial properties, and are typically handling tasks such as rent collection, property maintenance, tenant inquiries, lease administration, and enforcing property rules and regulations. And so because of the complex regulatory and legal framework that oversees the entire real estate industry, it is important for us as real estate agents in the commercial space to be able to stay informed of what is going on, both locally in our in the markets that we're in, but then also statewide and across the nation as well. So over the past several years, it's been conversations about and even some laws and moratoriums that have been put into place regarding rent control, regarding the amount of new multifamily buildings that can be constructed, laws that have made it easier for office building owners to convert their buildings into multifamily, and other laws and policies that have an impact in terms of how commercial real estate can be used, and the potential value of commercial real estate related to the zoning of the property and what you can and cannot do. And so commercial real estate operates within this framework of local, regional, and national regulations. That includes the building codes, your zoning laws, environmental regulations, as well as any contracts and lease agreements. And so having a handle on those considerations in the legal and regulatory space is really important. When I first started in the industry, I made it a point to build a strategy around connecting with land use and zoning attorneys and civil engineers and consultants that were active in the process locally, whether it was a building that was going to be built or a tenant that was looking to lease a space but needed to build out their office or build out their headquarters, or a developer that was looking to build a building. In each one of those instances, making sure that I connected with attorneys, consultants, and other third-party professionals that were going to be a part of that process to help to make the transaction or the project smooth for the client. So being able to build relationships with those type of professionals can be very helpful in your career. I found that it was I found that it was critical for people to know that, if I don't have the answer, we can connect or add someone to the team who could potentially help us with better understanding the current landscape from a legal and political perspective. Technology and innovations played a huge role in the shaping the future of commercial real estate. So the industries evolved with the adoption of this technology. So whether that's AI, software, the way that folks are operating their real estate with new kind of building systems and building materials that are being used to cut down on expenses for the operation of the property, as well as the ability for us as real estate agents to provide better virtual tours, better video tours, and then looking at more data analytics and metrics that can help us to be better in the work that we do. So all of these advancements have streamlined the process. They've improved efficiency in the market, and it's improved the overall experience for tenants in the market. The last thing that I'll say, just as a quick overview, is the globalization and international investments continue to grow, and interest across the country. As more investors from across the world have continued to look at the United States as a safe bet as opposed to other countries, the influx of foreign debt and equity has allowed for more transactions to take place and projects that get funded. So as you start to build more relationships in the industry, definitely keep a open mind to building relationships with international and foreign investors and funds that may be looking to place capital in the United States market. So, as I mentioned, I know we have folks from all over the country on the call this morning, and depending on what market you're in, it's going to be different depending on the local economy, who the largest employers are, what are the key industries that make up that local economy, and then what is the current real estate portfolio that exists within a specific market. And so, as we've talked about, these market dynamics are really influenced by a number of different factors. And so the economic environment, supply and demand dynamics, the interest rates, consumer confidence, as well as government policies. And these market trends and cycles, they play a crucial role in determining property values, rental rates, and investment opportunities. And so the players in the industry that are critical to making the business go include property owners, real estate agents, developers, investors, tenants, brokers, lenders, and property management companies, to name a few. And we all work together to be able to buy, sell, lease, and finance and manage commercial properties. And so for individuals that are looking at either buying existing commercial real estate as an investment or buying the real estate for use as their business, commercial real estate continues to offer an attractive investment opportunities for business owners, individuals, as well as institutional investors and real estate investment trusts that are looking to buy a commercial property for investment purposes, whether they're going to execute a value add strategy where the properties may be underutilized, needs some capital improvements and some upgrades, but needs to be kind of given a breath of life, some new fresh air to bring the property up to today's standards and to attract the type of tenants that can pay them the rents that will generate the projected returns that they are seeking. So with the interest rates coming down, that has had a good, it's put a good, momentum into the market as we head into 2024 because there's more confidence that more buyers will be in the market. And that is across the board in residential and commercial. But the question that folks are kind of asking themselves now is, will banks and lenders provide the financing that is needed to make these deals happen? Will they kind of get off of their hands a little bit and start to provide more loans and do more deals? And so I think the answer to that was yes. That's going to continue to get better. We're going to be able to have more deals get done because the banks really for the past 6 months have just kind of been sitting, kind of waiting to see, well, what's the interest rate environment going to be in 2024? The Fed has made announcements over the past couple months, signaling that the environment will be better. And so because of that, we should have more activity and deal volume in the commercial real estate sector in 2024 across all property types. So again, we talked a little bit about the various commercial properties that you can lease, buy, or sell as a commercial real estate broker. There's office buildings or shopping centers, industrial warehouses, hotels, healthcare facilities, medical office buildings, as well as land, mixed use, and multifamily properties. I mean, each property has its own unique characteristics, market dynamics, and investment considerations. And so we have a few folks that just joined us. If you have any questions, just feel free to use the chat function. We'll take a couple breaks throughout for a question and answer. And in the second half, we'll dive into our business planning session and overview. So some of the key roles and responsibilities of a commercial real estate broker are listed here. If you all just take a minute to review this list, and we'll talk about really the important roles and responsibilities of commercial real estate brokers in the commercial real estate industry. So as you can see here, as a commercial real estate broker, you are constantly identifying and prospecting potential clients in your market. And so whether it is doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, developers, builders, investors, you're constantly seeking to build relationships with people that you can potentially do business with, and you're constantly talking about who you are and the services that you have to offer and about your company and their ability to be able to provide commercial real estate services as well. So you're constantly developing and maintaining relationships with property owners, investors, landlords, and tenants. It's really important to stay laser focused on being up to date on the current market conditions and looking at market research and doing a market analysis to determine, what is the, going property values for office buildings and retail shopping centers and other commercial properties in my market. What is it on a price per square foot basis? For buildings that are for rent, what is the going rental rate for these buildings? What are the trends that we're seeing in the market? We talked about a few earlier related to the office market. One of the other roles is constantly looking to build your pipeline of listings and listing and marketing commercial properties for selling for lease through various channels. And so you're constantly marketing the properties online through CoStar and LoopNet, Craigslist, Showcase, There are other platforms as well as through your company website, social media, putting up signs, postcards, letters, etc. And once you are able to list the properties and start to market those properties, people are going to call you. You're going to get emails, and folks are going to want to go out and see the property. So you'll be conducting the property tours and showing for potential buyers and tenants, and negotiating and finalizing purchase and lease agreements to ensure favorable terms and conditions for your client. And it involves providing guidance and advice to clients on property investments, the market conditions, and investment strategies. And you're constantly providing information to your client. And so, whether it's sending, property reports, whether you are sending comps of recent leases or sales that have happened in the market, or new investments or developments that are coming to the area that may have an impact on the property, it's good to be able to stay engaged and informed what's going on in your market, but then use that as a way to connect with prospective clients and to keep your current clients engaged and informed of what's going on. Collaborating with other real estate professionals is really important. So building relationships with contractors, with bankers, attorneys, other real estate agents, appraisers, inspectors, consultants, and engineers. I could go on and on. That can help you to be able to facilitate transactions more smoothly. I found that when you run into a situation in a commercial real estate transaction, oftentimes it can be solved, or the situation can be handled, but it often involves collaboration and working with other professionals. So again, for those who are just getting started in the business, going to business networking events and real estate, networking events within your local market, attending conferences and seminars where these professionals will be, is a great way to build your network. But if you're not able to go to a bunch of networking events in person, using LinkedIn and social media to connect with these professionals is good as well. Staying updated on your local zoning regulations and building codes and other legal requirements is important, and keeping accurate records of your property's listings and your client interactions through your CRM or your client relations management system, and documenting the transaction details. So being able to be efficient and organized is really important in the business, and keeping accurate records and up-to-date information in your pipeline. And finally, just building your contacts. And one of the things that I did when I first started in the business was I went through my email list, and I went through my phone list, and looked at all of the contacts that I had, and made a list of about 50 contacts that I knew were either in the real estate business, they owned real estate, or they were an entrepreneur or someone who was a professional that had a lot of relationships with potential tenants, landlords, buyers, and sellers. And the focus of that was to get referrals and to be able to build new business opportunities. So take some time during this period before we head into the start of the new year to go through your phone list, go through your email list, and make a really targeted list of people who could refer you business or that in the real estate industry. And we'll talk a little bit about this in the second half of our session, around why that's important in helping to generate listings, generate new client relationships, and to be able to hit your financial goals for the year. So the difference between commercial real estate sales and leasing is as follows. Commercial real estate sales, it involves the transfer of commercial properties from a seller to a buyer, or one or the other. The focus is on the purchase and sale of the properties for either use for a business or for investment purposes. And sales transactions typically involve negotiations on property terms and conditions, including financing arrangements. Investors can be individual investors, business owners, institutional investors, corporations, or real estate investment trusts. And the sales process involves us as commercial real estate agents being able to market the property, identify prospective buyers, conducting property tours, and negotiating purchase agreements. And so, as brokers, we represent either the buyer and the seller to be able to secure the best deal for our client. In commercial real estate leasing, it involves the rental of commercial properties to tenants for a specified period. And the primary objective is to be able to secure tenants that will be good tenants. They'll occupy the space for a good lease term, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or more. They're going to take care of the space and they're going to pay you your rent on time. That is the primary objective. You want good, high quality paying tenants. That is the name of the game. And leasing transactions typically involve negotiations on the lease terms, such as what is the rental rate going to be? How long is the lease term? What are the tenant improvements that need to be made to the space for them to operate their business? And then what kind of lease structure do I want to put into place to be able to best suit the need of my landlord or my tenant? Tenants may include businesses, organizations, or individuals seeking space for their operations, like retail stores, offices, or other commercial activities. The leasing process involves us as agents marketing the available space, attracting potential tenants, conducting property tours, and negotiating lease agreements. As leasing brokers, you represent either the landlord or the tenant, working to find the most suitable lease terms for both parties. And so the key differences between sales and leasing are as follows. Sales involves the transfer of ownership, while leasing involves renting out a property without transferring ownership. Sales focuses on the purchase and investment potential of properties, while leasing focuses on finding tenants and generating rental income. Sales transactions are typically a one-time event, whereas leasing involves ongoing agreements with periodic lease renewals. Sales brokers work on behalf of the buyer and the seller, while landlords represent either the landlord or the tenant. And sales often involve negotiations on the price of the property, the deal terms and conditions, and how the property will be financed if it is being financed. While leasing negotiations center around what is the rental rate going to be, what is the lease term, what are the rights and responsibilities of the landlord and the tenant, and what are the tenant and landlord improvements. And so sales brokers often work with investors and businesses and have a deeper understanding of how to value a property, the market trends and investment strategies, while leasing brokers specialize in tenant needs, the market availability, and space that is coming into the market, and what is the best lease structure to satisfy the needs of their client. So there's some additional differences. The financial considerations are really an important part of the two differences between commercial real estate sales and leasing. In sales, the focus is on purchase price, property valuation, and the potential return on investment. Buyers are assessing the property value and the potential for appreciation, whereas leasing involves negotiations on rental rates, lease terms, and tenant obligations. And landlords are aiming to maximize the rental income and secure stable long-term tenants. For ownership and responsibilities, it's in sales, the buyer assumes ownership and responsibility for the property, including maintenance, property taxes, and insurance. And in leasing, the landlord retains ownership and is typically responsible for property maintenance, the taxes, and insurance, whereas the tenants are responsible for rent payments and some operational expenses. Long-term commitment. Sales transactions often represent a long-term commitment for buyers. Once you buy it, you own it, and if you want to sell it, just can't wait until you're. It's not like you have a lease and you can wait till it expires and move out, wipe your hands clean. You have to go through a process of selling the property. So when you're buying or representing buyers, it's more of a longer term commitment. Whereas if you're leasing, it provides more flexibility. to be able to occupy a space on a short-term basis and then move into a larger space or relocate as needed. And the return on investment. Sales transactions offer potential returns through property appreciation, rental income, and the potential tax benefits as well. Whereas leasing provides regular rental income for property owners without the long-term commitment and potential risk associated with property ownership. We talked about the market factors earlier related to vacancy rates, supply and demand, and the economic conditions, as well as the legal considerations that you should be keeping in mind as well. So looking at the difference between how in sales, it involves legal processes that through the property title transfers, due diligence reports, property condition reports, potential financing arrangements as well. And leasing requires lease agreements to outline the rights and obligations of landlords and tenants, and provides really detailed information related to like the structure of the lease and how the lease will be administered. So it's important to note that commercial real estate sales and leasing can often intersect with properties being listed for sale and for lease at the same time. And for me, when I first started in the business, I wanted to learn as much as I could. And I focused on doing sales and leasing in two areas in commercial real estate when I first started, and then I expanded. So I focused on office, and then I focused on industrial when I first started my career. And as I got comfortable in those two areas of the industry, I then expanded to retail and specialty properties like schools and churches and daycare centers and properties such as that. And so it's good if you have the ability to learn both sales and leasing, because that can help your business to be able um, to grow more quickly. But then also as the market changes year to year, one year you may do more sales, the next year may do more leasing, depending on the environment that you're in and what the market looks like where you're doing business. So those are just a few things to keep in mind. I'm going to pause here. I'll take a couple questions from the chat. Yes, so I will be sending out the recording for this session. So if you guys have any, have any questions or need to go back and watch anything, you can go and check out the recording. I also will include these slides as well. So for folks that may have to step away, or if you came in a little bit late, no worries. Look at the recording as well as look at the slides. So I'll pause for any questions that folks may have, and then we'll continue along here.
I do have a question. Hello?
Yes.
I'm like literally not even a week in from getting my license, but I was interested in how do you go about obtaining the commercial properties? Let's just say a daycare. Do you just like walk into the establishment, ask to talk to someone? Is there, if they have a number, do you just call them? And then also when you do speak to them, what exactly is it that you say?
Great question. That's a great question. And when I first started, I didn't know the answer to that question at all, because for most people who are looking to get in touch with a owner, the first thought would be exactly what you said, and that's going right into the business and talking with someone and asking, "Hey, can I speak with the owner of the property, or can I get connected with the owner of the property?" In most cases in commercial real estate, the owner of the property usually is not the one that's operating in the property or in the building. And so it takes some effort to be able to figure out who the true owner of a property is. And that can be done through a number of ways. One, every county and every state has a database of property addresses and property records, where if you type in the address of a property into this database, it will give you a property record that will have the owner's name, the owner's mailing address, how long they've owned the property, how much they bought the property for, as well as what the assessed value is. So the assessed value meaning what the county or state has deemed to be the value for the purposes of generating taxes for property taxes for that property. And so if you're able to find the ownership entity's information from that database and get a mailing address, I typically like to send a letter, and I'm happy to share a letter template with you all that introduces myself, who I am, what I do, as well as my company, and let them know that I'm reaching out to talk with them more about the current status of their property, if they're looking to lease the property, if they're looking to sell it, if they have not considered that in the past, would they consider it now? And offering the opportunity to meet with them to talk more about their interest in listing the property. And so that's usually the first step, is sending a letter to the property owner. The second step would be making a phone call and trying to get a phone number for the owner of the property. So in most cases, but not all, commercial real estate is either owned in LLC or some type of corporation that may not be clear to you on the surface who the true owner is. So what you would do is you would go on Google, type in the name of that business, and typically there's a business directory or um, business search page for each state where you can find the registered agent or the owner's name, and get their name and then look up a phone number for that particular owner and reach out to them. So the hope is that they get a letter, they don't get the letter if it's a wrong address, you follow up with a phone call. And if you're not successful in getting them on the phone, or through the getting them to respond through a letter, utilizing LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook to try to find out who that property owner is and to get in touch with them. So it involves multiple steps, but again, the first step, getting the property owner's information, sending them a letter, following up with a phone call, offering your services, offering to meet with them and talk with them about their property and what their interest is, of potentially working with you to lease or sell the property. Great question. Yes, I will. Yes, thank you all. Judy and Vadi said they would like a copy of the letter template. I'm happy to provide that. And that's something that you all can, tweak. You can make it, customize it for yourself. But I found it to be very effective tool. And each week, I would say I send out about 100 to 150 letters to different property owners, depending on what neighborhood or what market I'm targeting. So we'll continue along here. We'll talk about the different commercial property types. So office, retail, industrial, multifamily, and medical, as well as specialty properties. Talk about analyzing market trends and demand drivers for each property type and identifying opportunities and challenges in different market segments. And so I'm not going to read through all of this. I just want to briefly touch on each commercial property type, and then I'll pose a question to you all for each one in terms of where you think that particular sector of the market is or how it's performing where you live. So office buildings, as we've talked about, have had really have had the worst run that I've seen since I've been in the business, and probably the worst performing years over the past 20 to 30 years, because people are not going back to the office. As much as we love virtual work and hybrid schedules, it's having an impact on office buildings staying full, and businesses and organizations wanting to continue to pay rent for spaces that are not being used. And so because of that, there's been less office leasing because there's not as many tenants in the market looking to lease office space. But there has been the need for more owners of office buildings to sell their properties because they're not getting the rent needed to cover their mortgage, or is referred to in the commercial real estate, their debt service. And so office is a really important component of the commercial real estate industry. It's not going anywhere. It's a lot of office in every market across the country. And so being able to find opportunities to either list office buildings, whether it's a small office office building or a large office building, being able to get those types of listings right now, I think is going to be a huge opportunity for real estate agents, because a lot of owners are struggling with vacancy and not being able to keep up with their property. So that's something to keep in mind. Retail has rebounded since COVID. All of us remember during COVID, whether you were, and really in most places across the country, like restaurants being shut down, entertainment venues being closed, no hotels being impacted, not being able to have large parties and gatherings. And the emergence of the e-commerce is relates to people just ordering everything from Amazon and online. It had an impact on retail properties across the country because the demand was not there from consumers to be able to help to support these retail businesses. And so that had an impact in the real estate industry. It's improved over the past 2 years. Retail has started to rebound as we've had newer retail concepts come into market, new restaurants, new innovative, like interactive, entertainment options, such as, like, believe it or not, axe throwing, bowling alleys, paint and sip operations, theater rooms, escape rooms. All of these types of new, like, retail concepts have come into the market and have helped to backfill some of the retail space. Restaurant industry is doing very well, and so more restaurants are now out looking to lease and buy commercial real estate. And in my opinion, retail is going to continue to be a strong component of the industry, because people are just, as a force of habit, as a part of our nature. We like to go out. We like to have dinner with family and friends. We like to shop. So retail should continue to do well. So looking for those opportunities where you can work with friends that you have and people in your network who are entrepreneurs that can lease retail spaces. I've done restaurants, I've done hair salons, I've done um, you know clothing stores, boutiques. It's across the board. You can do you know electronic stores, you can do barbershops, hair salons. It's wide open. So that's something to keep in mind as you start to look into the retail market. Multifamily is really the bread and butter of commercial real estate industry. It has been for many years, and it continues to be even after COVID, with everyone needing a safe, quality space to live. COVID only exacerbated the need for quality housing. So that's why you see so much multifamily apartments and developments being built across the country, because there's a significant amount of demand for quality housing and also affordable housing as well. So multifamily apartments, whether it's, a 4 unit all the way up to 200, 300 units, are in demand. If you can list these properties, you are gonna have a good chance of getting buyers, as long as the property is appropriately priced, because generally speaking, the sense in the investment community is that multifamily is right now is the strongest property, strongest property type and asset class that one can invest in at this time. So looking for multifamily apartments to list in your market is really important to put together a targeted list. So look at okay, how can I get a list of all the apartment buildings in a specific area? I use a program called CoStar, and I'll take some time just to show you all CoStar. CoStar is um, essentially a commercial real estate platform that allows for real estate investors as well as real estate agents to list their properties for lease and for sale, as well as to pull information on every commercial property in a specific area. And so commercial real estate agents highly rely on CoStar to not only identify those properties, but also to pull lists. We had talked a little bit earlier about how do you reach out to property owners and find that information, their contact information. CoStar helps you to do that as well. So we'll take some time to briefly go through that, and I can show you all CoStar how it works. And for most brokerages that do offer commercial real estate for their business line, it is an essential part of the business to have CoStar and LoopNet. It's unfortunate because CoStar and LoopNet really have like the monopoly on the market in terms of being the premier listing service for these commercial properties. So something to keep in mind, and I'll share more information on that. Multifamily owners are constantly looking for market information and are looking to better understand what the value of their property is. And so it is critical to reach out to the owners, talk with them about how the asset is performing. In order to value their properties, they have to provide you with rent rolls, operating expenses, and other financial information and property information for you to be able to assess the property. With this session, we won't go into valuation techniques. That's one of um, the techniques and skills that I teach as a part of my mentorship program. Is how do you value an office building versus a apartment building, or an industrial warehouse versus a shopping center, because it can be very complex and each property is different. But all property owners are looking for that type of information, but multifamily owners are definitely wanting to keep up with what the value of their property is based off of how the asset is performing from an investment perspective. And so multifamily is a safe bet, but it's always being influenced by these following factors. So housing market conditions, what's the rent demand, population growth in the area, are more businesses moving to the area and are jobs being grown, or are more businesses leaving and people are losing their jobs? And then what is the current government regulations related to multifamily apartments? Is it a situation where your rents may be capped because of rent control? Are you in situations where if you have a tenant that's not paying rent, it's harder for you to get them evicted, or it takes a lot of money and a lot of time to go through that process? All of those things have an impact in multifamily, but just something to keep in mind. Industrial real estate has expanded and grown primarily because of the e-commerce phenomenon, and people are looking to get things delivered quickly, and to be distributed. Businesses looking for their products to be distributed across the country and the world. So that's led to a boom in for distribution, production, or fashion. And these are primarily in industrial zones and areas that have easy access to transportation routes, highways, railways, and ports. And it is a great part of the industry because industrial warehouses are critical to be able for the economy to be able to work, for businesses to operate. And so looking at industrial parks in your market, driving around, looking to see where most of the warehouse is located. Is there a demand for maybe it's a contractor or construction company that's looking at building their own building, or an investor that's looking to buy a piece of land that they can then rent out to as a storage yard, um, or a company that's operated out of a warehouse for many years, but they're thinking about closing their business and now they're looking to sell. All those scenarios are potential opportunities for you to either sell or lease industrial. And it's a part of the industry that most people kind of overlook, but it can be very lucrative working in industrial. And finally, we'll go through hospitality and specialty properties. So uh, hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, all of those types of like hospitality properties have improved over the past 2 years because people are getting back out traveling, vacationing. Rental rates are up for rooms. There's more demand from consumers for these types of rentals, and so that has had a positive impact on the value of hotels, vacation rentals, bed and breakfasts, and hospitality real estate is very specialized as all types of commercial real estate, but it how you value a hotel or a bed and breakfast is a different model. So that's something that you may want to look into, or we can talk about more one-on-one if that's something you're interested in. But the ability to be able to value those properties takes a little bit more of a specialized skill set to and financial analysis to be able to arrive to the value. But it's not impossible. It just takes a little bit of a different uh, way of valuing the properties as opposed to office or retail. And so hospitality, in every market, you have hotels, resorts. For me personally, I found that there's really more opportunity with finding land for sale that could work for development of a hotel, particularly in more urban environments, or if you're like right outside of an urban center or environment, there's population growth and people are looking to um, travel to that particular area. So there's demand for hotel in every market. It's just about finding out where's the demand and going after those properties and trying to get them listed. We just talked about land. Land is an asset that is really referring to undeveloped or vacant parcels of property that can be used for future development of residential or commercial. And so land is a very specialized part of the business. You don't have to know everything about land development and construction to be able to sell the land, but how you value the land based off of zoning, based off of the property conditions, based off of what the what you or your client is proposing on building on the land, how money can be generated from that development. That's going to have an impact in terms of the value of the property. But what you want to try to do is find commercial land that's located in areas that have already experienced high growth or is in the process of having high growth potential. And so looking at, okay, where are the new apartment buildings being built? Where are new shopping centers being built? Where are people starting to move to in my county? Like what zip codes are experiencing the most growth? Where are my friends moving to? Where are people looking to relocate to? So all of those things can be helpful and help you to determine what areas you should start looking to find residential and commercial land for sale. And that can range anything from, sold the smallest piece of land I sold was 6,000 square feet of land, but it was located in downtown Washington, D.C. And 6,000 square feet of land is that's less than a quarter of an acre. But because of its location and being downtown, that 6,000 square feet of land sold for $7.2 million for development of a luxury condominium building. Whereas if that same 6,000 square feet of land was in, let's say, Western Maryland, like 2 hours away from downtown DC, that land will be significantly less because it's in a more rural environment. What you're going to build on the land, you may not be able to achieve as much density or build as many units or as much square footage because of the zoning. So location has a important it's an important component of how much a property is worth when you're talking about land. So that is something to keep in mind as well. And finally, just talking briefly about like specialty property. So you have schools, churches, daycare centers, car washes, um, laundromats. All of these types of like specialty properties are good as well to focus on and to find opportunities, particularly if you have relationships with folks that are owners or involved in these types of businesses or organizations. So that's something to keep in mind. I found that during COVID and even now, a lot of people looking to buy daycare centers, a lot of people looking to buy and sell churches, a lot of people are looking to get into owning and operating car washes and laundromats. So there's a lot of demand in these specialty areas. So I'll pause here and we'll take some questions, and then we'll just take a short break before we start to dive into our business planning for 2024. So Michelle asked, are gas stations considered specialty? So, yeah, gas stations are really considered retail, but they are specialized within the retail industry. So gas stations are valued depending on what kind of gas station it is. If it's full service, it can be based off of the value can be based off of how much gas they're selling, as well as the sell some convenience. If they have an automotive repair component to it, what is the revenue being generated from that as well? So it is a mix of the real estate, but then also the business valuation as well. But gas stations typically do sell fairly quickly because they don't come onto the market that often. And when they do, there are people just lined up to buy them. Okay, Judy asks, as a retail leasing agent, do you recommend to send out letters as well? Great question. Judy, yes. I do recommend sending out letters. And this is really, again, like we talked about in the beginning, building relationships with tenants, building relationships with landlords, and constantly looking to work with the next like big retailer or restaurant or business in your market. So constantly connecting with entrepreneurs, going to business networking events. Like if you like a certain store in your market, or you like a restaurant, like hey, compliment the owner, or go to the manager of the restaurant and say, hey, I would love to talk to you about your real estate. Or man, I really love you guys' food or love the products that you all sell. Have you thought about opening another location? Have you thought about expanding? And you never know. Those simple interactions can turn into a business opportunity. I'm a shopper many times in my career, and it's fairly common. So you want to make sure that you are asking the question, hey, do you have any real estate needs at this time? Have you thought about leasing or selling? Have you thought about buying? And you'll be surprised. People will um, give you, an answer pretty openly in most cases and say, hey, we're either looking at this time or we're not. But adding them to your Rolodex can be really helpful. A lot of the relationships that I built in my career, I built the relationship, but maybe I didn't get the listing, or maybe I didn't immediately start working with them. So even if they say no, continue to build a relationship with them. You can follow up with them a month, on a monthly basis, check in. And then at some point, you might have the opportunity to do that, work with that client, do that deal. Benjamin asks, any tips on becoming good at networking? Yes, you want to, I found that you want to be able to like put yourself in rooms with people who are actively in business and put yourself in rooms where with people who can help you to transact business and get deals done. So again, when I first started out in the business, I went to at least one networking event a week. I was on LinkedIn, connecting with people, using Facebook, Instagram to connect with real estate investors, people who are buying and selling real estate, business owners. And I made it a point to try to build my contact list, whether email and phone numbers every week. So whether that was through referrals from my friends and family, whether that was through people emailing me or calling me about properties that I may have listed, I needed to be able to run my list. So you're constantly looking to network and build relationships with people. So that's going to be really important. So networking, those are just a few networking tips. And I can recommend a couple of organizations in the notes when we conclude the class, of just organizations that you may want to look into, like Urban Land Institute is one, as well as different real estate investment groups in your local market. All right, let's take a couple more questions, and we'll just take a short break. Judy asked, "Do you actively canvas?" I try to, when canvassing, guys, is just door knocking, going to businesses, dropping and introducing yourself, dropping off flyers or dropping off a brochure or business card, and doing that is really good because it gets your face out into the market. You get to interact with tenants and business owners in your market and find some opportunities just by being out and being out in the mix and looking at different properties and talking to different owners. And so canvassing is a good way. I try to do it at least once a month where I just take maybe an hour or two and go out in a particular neighborhood or on a couple of streets and pick, all right, I'm gonna go into these 15 buildings today. I'm gonna drop off my card. I'm gonna walk into each office, drop my card off, introduce myself, and make a list and follow up over the course of a month or in the coming months in that year, and just touch base with them to see if they have a need. You can get some good opportunities from canvassing, as well as from sending out letters, social media, cold calling, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But using all of the different marketing tools that you have at your disposal to be able to generate leads is important. Deanna asks, how important is it to align yourself with a commercial brokerage, or is it more about selling yourself as an individual agent? It's a really a mix of both. Like having a strong company um, backing what you do as a commercial real estate agent is important. So the ability of the brokers to provide you with the support you need with your marketing and helping you with the costs related to like having a CoStar account to be able to market the property and reach out to other owners and prospective tenants and buyers is helpful. So that component is critical. Like your brokerage has to help to provide you with the resources needed to be able to sell the properties and to get the business. But as equally as important is like your own ability to be able to execute on that particular transaction. And so it's a mix of both. When I first started, I didn't have much experience. So what I would do is just really play up the experiences of the company and say, look, this is the experience of the company. Our company has sold hundreds of commercial properties over the years, such as yours, and planning out the company until I got more experience where I could just lean on my own brand and what I've done. So I would recommend that if you're with the brokerage that is offering commercial real estate, talk to your broker about all of the resources they can provide you and even additional training as well at their own expense for free to you to help you grow and to be more successful in the business. Okay. I'm going to pause here. We're going to take a short 5 minute break, and then we're going to dive right into our business planning exercise here. For those who just joined us, again, this is being recorded, so I will be sharing this recording with everyone after the conclusion of the session. And we will have a link for folks to schedule individual one-on-one calls with me to answer any specific questions you may have in the talk in more detail about your specific goals and objectives. So let's take a short break. It's 10:15. We'll take a 5 minute break, and then we'll dive right into our business planning session. We may go a little bit after 11. We should be wrapped up no later than 11:10, 11:15. But again, for those who may not be able to stick on, this is recorded, so you can go back and watch. So we'll take a short break, and we'll get started at 10:20. All right, let's dive back in. Again, for those who may have just joined us, this session is being recorded. So I will send out the recording for the session later today. And if you missed any part of the session, you can go back and watch it. And we will have one-on-one calls to answer any specific questions that you may have and to talk about your goals and objectives for the year. So want to just answer one last question in the chat, and then we'll dive into the um, business planning for 2024. So Julia asks, how much do you rely on your client relationship management system, and what do you recommend to use? I again, your CRM or your client relationship management system is really important to track leads, referrals, as well as transaction management. They have different websites and platforms that you can use. I personally like to use Airtable to be able to track, all of my listings, track my marketing campaigns, track leads, referrals. It's really easy to use, and it's pretty affordable. And so I would recommend checking out Airtable as a potential CRM, but there are others as well that I'm sure folks use that your brokerage may provide to you or have recommended to you, but I use Airtable